my channel. My name is Lucy and this is She is Strength. So before we get into anything, I have an announcement. My mic is giving me problems. I don't know what's going on, so I'm going to be recording without it today. Excuse me if the sound is not the same as it was the last time, but I promise that I'm going to fix that soon. But the show must go on, so let's get right into it. So a few days ago, I posted a status about the importance of backing your ideas and your dreams with effort and hard work. I posted the status on WhatsApp and my caption was, your ideas and your dreams are worthless unless they are backed up by hard work and effort. And I actually got a response from one of my contacts, and she was telling me how she has ideas, she has a lot of ideas, she has business plans that she wants to implement, and it's not that she does not want to work, it's not that she's not willing to put in the effort, it's just that she really does not know how and where to start. And if you guys remember the first video that I did, I was talking about how I also struggled with this. Before I started this channel, I knew that I need to be empowering women, but I don't know where to start, and I started asking myself that if I went through this, if I suffered from this, and if she is currently suffering from this, how many other young girls are out there sitting on potential? How many other girls are out there sitting on ideas that could change the world and have an impact on people's lives? How many ideas are going to remain just ideas because we do not have the proper guidance and we do not have the proper guidelines? And this led me to studying the importance and the discipline of planning when you are given a vision. And as I was studying, I got led to the book of Nehemiah. And although this is not a Bible study, I'm going to be using the Bible as a foundation. And just to put it out there, I'm going to be using the Bible as a foundation a lot on this channel because I really believe that the Bible offers guidance to literally everything. You just need to have the proper interpretation for whatever you are reading at that moment. So for today, we're going to be focusing on Nehemiah chapter 1 and chapter 2, but I'm not going to be reading them because they're quite lengthy. So in your own time, please go through Nehemiah 1 and 2. But for now, I'm just going to give you a summary of what goes on in those two chapters. Right. So Nehemiah was the cupbearer for the king in Persia, and in the first chapter he introduces himself and tells us about a time when his brother and other men in Judah came to visit him while he was still in Susa. They had come to tell him about the state that Jerusalem was in. They had come to tell him how the walls of Jerusalem had broken down and how the gates had been burnt down by the fire. And when he hears this, Nehemiah becomes very shocked and sad because this is the land that his forefathers lived in, So he becomes very sad and he cries for days on end. And then after, he goes on to start praying and fasting, praying to God and asking him to have mercy on the people in Jerusalem and to hear his intercession. And after praying and fasting for 4 months, Nehemiah finally approaches the king, asking him to send him to Jerusalem because God had put it in his heart to go rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. He also asks the king to provide him with all the resources that he's going to need for this project. So when he arrives in Jerusalem, Nehemiah spends 3 evenings inspecting the place, inspecting how the walls had been broken down, how the gates had been burnt down, inspecting what was going to be expected of him so that he could accomplish this task. And mind you, while he's doing all of this, nobody in Jerusalem knows what he's here to do. He did not arrive there and announce that he was here to rebuild the walls. Rather, he wanted to take time first inspecting and examining the situation. It was only after he understood, or he had finished examining the place and he understood what was expected of him, that he finally said to the people of Jerusalem, "Come now, let us rebuild the walls of Jerusalem." And he makes them understand what God had put in his heart. He makes them understand his vision. And because they now understood what God had put in his heart and they now understood his vision, they respond and they say, "Let us start rebuilding." So later in further in chapter 2, we learn that as they were rebuilding the wall, Nehemiah started developing enemies who would constantly tell him that what he was doing would not be a success. You know, they were constantly mocking him and looking down on him. And because of these enemies, Nehemiah's builders constantly had to be armed. Like, they literally had to be armed at all times. While they were building, they carried swords with them. So in my view, in my opinion, Nehemiah was just like any other person, you know, given a vision by God. And the only reason that he was able to see this vision through, the only reason that he was able to complete it, was because he knew where and how to start, and he followed the right guidelines. And I feel like a lot of us can make use of Nehemiah's story. We can learn a lot from it. And that is why I have decided to compile 5 steps that we can use to implement in our lives when we are given visions but don't know where to start. So the first thing you want to do when God gives you a vision is to pray about it. Nehemiah prayed for 4 months, January to April. He was praying and fasting non-stop. Nehemiah prayed for 4 months before he even thought of acting, before he even thought of approaching the king. He prayed, asking God for guidance, asking God for direction, asking God for his divine power. So when God gives you a vision, before you want to act, before you want to announce, before you want to plan, before you do anything, you need to pray. You need to pray to God for direction. You need to pray to God to give you his divine power. You need to pray for guidance. You know, I always say that prayer must be the foundation of literally every aspect of our lives. There are people who are given visions and don't pray about them because they feel like it's a small business, man. And I feel like this is a very wrong way of going about life. Guys, prayer is a very important thing. Prayer paves our way, literally. So whether it's a small thing, whether it's a big thing, whether it seems like it's not important, whatever it is that is going on that you're about to do, if God has given you a vision to start a business, whether you're going to do a project, whether you are launching something, whatever it is, set prayer as a foundation. If you want your things to succeed, if you want your things to stand firm, prayer must be your foundation. So after praying about it, you need to assess the situation thoroughly. When Nehemiah got to the land of Jerusalem, Hafitla Asinta Aha, you know, he spent 3 evenings inspecting the place, examining how the walls had been broken down, how the gates had been burnt down, he spent those evenings examining the damage that was done to the place, and analyzing what was going to be expected of him. So when God gives you a vision, don't be quick to act, don't be quick to start, you know. Take time understanding the situation first. If God calls you or gives you a vision to start a business, assess the situation first. And what do I mean when I say this? You need to assess literally everything, guys. If you are going to be selling, I don't know, t-shirts, you need to assess your market. You need to assess, okay, this is going to be my target market. This is what I'm going to be working for. This is what I want to do. This is what's going to be expected of me. This is very important. When you assess the situation of what you have been called to do, you are able to establish what is expected of you. And only when you understand what is expected of you will you be able to act accordingly. So if you don't understand what is expected of you, obviously how not gonna act in accordance. And another important thing, Nehemiah, when he arrived in Jerusalem, Hafitla Asente announced that he was there to build. Remember, he spent 3 evenings inspecting the place, but to what he had went there to do. So even in our lives, don't be quick to announce, guys. Don't be quick to tell people about things that you are not even sure of. Make sure that you understand what God is calling you to do, what He expects you to do, what is expected of you before you even think of telling people about it. After assessing the situation thoroughly, you need to counter plan and seek God's vision. A lot of us have visions, right? But the problem is that our visions are self-motivated. We are driven by hanka etsa fela tšhelete, hanka thola di followers, hanka thola fame, you know? And I really feel like that is the wrong way to go on about it. When I started my nail business, I have a nail business, by the way. When I started my nail business, my main focus was chelete. You know? But as time went by, I started realizing that there's actually more to this than just money. There is more to this than just me making extra cash. I started to realize that actually this was God's way of putting me in contact with other young women. I know for sure that I've been called to speak life to young women. I know for sure that I've been called to speak life to my peers. And it started making sense to me that this was God's way of putting me in contact with those young women, because at that point I had not started this channel. I had not started anything. I was just at that point, I know I need to be speaking life to young women, but I don't know where to start. And eventually it started making sense that God, actually, I see what you're doing. So today I was attending a women empowerment event at Koinonia Bible Church, and one of the speakers was talking about how your purpose cannot be about you because you did not create yourself. Your purpose should be about God and giving the glory back to God because He created you. And that makes so much sense, guys. Your purpose cannot be about the fact that you want money, you want fame, you want followers. Your purpose should be about giving the glory back to God. We need to come to a place where we see God's vision above our own. And sometimes you need to understand that the vision that you have for yourself, the vision that God has for you. I have a friend, Caesar Kela was talking on radio a few days ago, and she was telling us about how she's a graduate, by the way. She was telling us about how her plan this year was to go back to school. In her mind, in her plans, she was going back to school this year, furthering her studies. She applied to all these universities, and it was done in her mind that she's going back to school. But this was her plan and not God's plan, you know? And God was just there like, this is not going to happen. And the university and God was just constantly on her case that this year and you're going to start a business that is going to spread my word. You are going to start a business that printed t-shirts. You're going to preach Lenzolaga with printed t-shirts. And she had no choice but to listen to what God was telling her to do. And right now she's actually doing very well. You guys can go check her out on Instagram and Facebook, Faith Teas by Caesar. She is doing very well, and that for me is a perfect example of somebody who just decided to seek God's vision above their own. You need to understand that your vision, or what you've been called to do, your purpose, is not about you. It's about giving the glory back to God, and it is about God's greater plan. There are some people who look down on the things that they do because get a makeup I just do hair. But do you realize that there are some women out there who have self-esteem issues? There are some women out there who don't really think they're pretty. Mag how qeta mo lowa, how qeta mo beha makeup, or wa feel le no ya man. Yeah, I am the goal that I think I am. Do you realize that you are part of God's greater plan? You are the reason that a young girl out there self-esteem will improve. But do you realize that it's not just about you making extra cash? It's not just about you getting followers or getting fame. It is about God's greater purpose. And it is only when you have confidence in God's purpose for your life that you are able to have a clear vision. And it is only when you have a clear vision that you can formulate a proper plan. because you cannot plan for something that you don't see. You cannot plan for something that you don't understand. In order for you to start planning, you need to have a vision, and in order for you to have a vision, you need to have confidence in what God has called you to do. And to show that you have confidence in what God has called you to do, changes have to be made in your life. I always say that you need to live a life that is worthy of the calling that you have received. You can't say God is giving you a vision to be a businesswoman and then want to pila faila. You know, envision the woman that God wants you to become 5 years from now. What are her habits? What things does she do? What things does she not do? Does she wake up early? You can't say, guys, you can't say now you want to start a business and then utuwa ka 11:30. Ka 12:30 khona lo hlapang. Ka bo 2:30 only then do you want to start your day, when the rest of us now our day is coming to an end. You want to start your day. Which business are you going to start? Which one is that one? Please show me that business that you are going to start waking up at that time. You need to make changes. You need to break certain habits and have new habits that are going to propel you to become the woman that God has called you to become. You don't just wake up and become that woman. You build her up each and every day. You know, you need to change things. There's a long life in your house. Don't just be everywhere with everyone doing everything. You need to understand that the people and the things that you allow into your life need to complement the woman that you are striving to become. If the things and the people that you are allowing into your life do not complement the woman that you're striving to become, then what is the point of having those things in your life? So you need to live a life that is worthy of the calling that you have received. So the next step, set goals and develop tactics. Setting goals is very important because it gives us a sense of direction. And once you have set goals, you need to have an action plan. Nehemiah's goal was to rebuild the wall of Jerusalem, right? After that, he needed to have an action plan. His action plan was to divide this entire project into 41 sections and allocate the builders accordingly. Because I feel like if he had arrived there and been like, okay, we're rebuilding, nobody was going to know what to do, when, how. Nobody was going to know who was in charge of what. But to make this thing doable and to make it easy, he had to have a proper action plan. He divided his project into 41 sections and allocated the builders accordingly, and this is how people were able to know what they had to do when, and this is how the project became a success. And when establishing an action plan, this is where you need to start asking yourself relevant questions. You need to pray to God and ask God, please bring me into contact with the people that you want me to work with. Please provide me with the resources that I'm going to need to fulfill this vision that you have given me, to fulfill this purpose that you have for my life. And most importantly, guys, you need to count the cost. Before getting into anything, guys, calculate your steps, calculate the cost. There is nothing as embarrassing and there is nothing as wrong as turning a person away because I'm out of products, or my business is on hold because right now I don't have enough money, or because or what. Count the cost. Know that if you're saying you're gonna sell t-shirts on a monthly basis, these are the amounts of t-shirts you're going to buy, these are the amounts of t-shirts you're going to sell. And if maybe otoladi orders are extra, know that delay in case. Also, you need to plan for unexpected disappointments and setbacks, just as Nehemiah's builders always had to be armed because of these enemies. You also have to be armed because of things that can just take a turn that you did not expect. This is life. And although you have a vision and you know where you are going, things might not always go your way. Things might take a turn usanahana, and I feel like also this is where flexibility comes in, because although ubatla who achieve something, you can't say I want to achieve this and I want to achieve it like this and be ubatla this way or no other way. This is life. things don't always go the way Kidibata, you know. So although you are focused on your vision and you know where you want to go, you need to be flexible in how you are going to get there, because you might plan to achieve your vision a certain way, and then along the way something happens that causes you to adjust or to make changes to the way you had planned to get there. So on top of being focused on your vision, be flexible in your way of getting there. And then lastly, you need to execute the plan and act. Know when to act, guys. Stop praying for something that God is waiting for you to start. Stop endlessly praying for something that God is waiting for you to start. Hi, I want to pray about it first. I'm still praying about it, guys. God gave you this vision. You prayed about it. God is just there being like, okay, I heard you. I will provide. I gave you this vision. I will provide. You just need to start. And in verse 20 of chapter 2, Nehemiah says, the God of heaven will give us success. Therefore, we, his servants, will arise and build. So you need to go in the confidence that God will grant you success where you walk in accordance to his will. God will grant you success because he is the one who gave you this vision. And also, please do not put your purpose and your vision on hold because of what people say. I remember before I started this entire thing, I was telling somebody that I want to start something to empower young women, and I will never forget the words that this person said to me. She said to me, because you haven't been through much in life. And that was just like batong. And people say these things without realizing that your words might be the reason that a person does not fulfill God's purpose for her life, you know. Words like that might be a reason why a person can just be like, hi, and just sit comfortably in their comfort zones. But also, another thing that I had to learn was that people who understand where I am and where I am going and what I am being led to do will always give me constructive advice. A few days ago, literally just a few days ago, a friend of mine was telling me about how he was watching my channel and he wants to help me make improvements to the channel. He saw this and this and he thinks it might be better if we do this and that and that and that. And that for me really is what matters. Those for me are the people who matter. As for all these other people with negative things to say, that should not matter to you. I feel like people who have been where you are or who are where you want to be, people who understand your vision, people who understand what you are doing, will always give you constructive advice. They will always be there to help you when you need help. They will always be there to have something positive to say. But it is these people who are sitting comfortably in their comfort zones and not doing anything about anything, who will just be negative and tell you how you will not be able to achieve it, and tell you how no man, this thing is not achievable and all of that. But also, as much as we choose the people that we surround ourselves with, we need to choose the words that we listen to. Not everything that is said is worth listening to. Not everything that a person says is worth listening to. Guys, you need to choose what you listen to. I mean, this is your vision that we're talking about. This is God's purpose for your life that we're talking about. So you really need to choose what you listen to. And another thing is that most times a person's opinion has nothing to do with you, but has everything to do with how that person sees himself or herself. It is a direct reflection of how that person sees himself or herself. So imagine you putting your vision on hold, you putting God's purpose for your life on hold because of how another person sees himself or herself. Imagine that. So choose what you listen to, and always keep in mind that the people who matter will always give you relevant and constructive advice. So that is it for today, guys. I hope this video will help a young girl out there who wants to start something but does not know where to start. I hope this was informative and helpful to you guys out there. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and just go out there and be great, guys. Bye.